Welcome back to the channel, Panda Pals. Today we're going to talk about what happened on Before the 90 Days. We're currently on season 8, episode 11. I'm going to be honest, not a lot of substantial things happened, but I am still going to talk about it. So sit your little booties down and let's get this show started. I am going to start off with Laura and Birkan. So Laura and Birkan, they finish the boat ride, they get back to the hotel, and Laura, even though she's riding this high because she's convinced herself that Birkan set the bar incredibly high, which I cannot believe that was a sincere thought in her head, she's kind of confused now because he's being so sweet, but he's also given some like red flags. So she really wants to call people back home, aka Michael, and she wants to talk some shit, so she doesn't want Birkan in the room with her. So she's like, hey baby, can you like get the fuck out of here? And Birkan is like, hell yeah, that means that I can do what I do best, smoking shisha.
You know, what am I gonna do?
Probably go find some shisha.
Yay.
All right, have fun.
See ya.
So Mans goes to do what he does best, which is be a human who functions at the lowest level possible. And Laura gives Michael a call. She tells Michael that Birkan has told her problematic things. He is $50,000 in debt. Oh, and he also has a gambling addiction. And obviously she decides to forget to tell him that Birkan considers gambling a job. You know, which I think is like the biggest red flag. And Michael hears all of this and he is like, oof, girl, those are some red flags. And Laura tries to convince him and herself that they're not really red flags. They're not that big of a deal. And she's like, yeah, but like Birkan's so sweet. He's so intentional. He's so thoughtful. Like I've never, ever had a man treat me so well, which, ugh, girl, that really sucks. I am so sorry for you.
He's ridiculously thoughtful. I don't get people who make me feel cared for very often in my life. That is a huge, huge win for me.
And Michael decides to give her some real talk, you know, some tough love. And he's like, girl, I think that your expectations are so low because you have dated the shittiest men that you think the bare minimum is something to be proud of.
I've been deprived of these experiences for so damn long that that's all he has to do, and you're falling head over heels for him. His job is to woo you, to make you feel like the love of his life, to make you feel incredibly special. He's running an incredible con game right now.
And he says this thing that I really like. He says, you are allowing yourself to fall in love with him because you're okay with sacrificing your common sense for a boat ride. And instead of absorbing this information and having some critical thinking skills, Laura continues to try to convince Michael that Birkan's red flags are not as red as they are.
The red flags sound crazy, but it's easier to hear about red flags than it is green flags. The green flags are harder to see unless you see them with your own eyes.
That is not true. That is just, that is a cope. You kind of have to reprioritize what you consider a green flag. And then Michael tells her that if she's super serious about moving forward with Birkan, then he would feel so much more comfortable if he could fly out to Turkey and meet him in person.
Before you make that level of a commitment, I would really appreciate it if you would let me come out there and see him for myself.
I don't know. That's a really big deal.
She doesn't really want him to do that because Birkan hates Michael, and she feels like if they meet, Birkan is only going to feel more inclined to leave her, which again, girly, that is a red flag. Let's move on to my favorite section that happened. We are going to talk about Forrest and Sheena. Forrest and Sheena head out. They leave Forrest's miserable mother behind so that they can actually have a good time together. And oh my God, the two of them are so freaking cute, okay? They joke, they laugh, they're having a ball of a time together. And it's so clear to see that they genuinely love each other and they genuinely make each other happy.
Should we do the same?
They do this photo booth thing where they get to put on costumes and dress up as a prince and a princess. And the way that Forrest not only speaks about Sheena, but the way that he looks at her, like he genuinely thinks that he is the luckiest guy on the face of this planet.
Seeing Sheena dressed up in that red dress, I found myself completely and totally speechless. She is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen.
There is a moment where Forrest does get serious with Sheena, where he's like, I need to know that you are not gonna lie to me in the future. And Sheena is like, ugh, okay, well, I have to tell you something. And I'm like, oh my God, what is it this time? But it's actually not that big of a deal. She just explains why she behaved the way that she does, and it obviously stems from previous relationship trauma.
My previous partner, he already had someone with him. He had been cheating me for the longest 3 years.
And then she tells us that made her feel like it was her fault. She wasn't perfect enough for him to just choose her. And that's why she felt like she had to lie to Forrest about all of this money stuff so that it made it look like she had no choice, so it doesn't tarnish how Forrest sees her.
That guy did not deserve you. I'm not like him. If you just tell me up front what the situation is, I'll be there to support you.
And he tells her, I hope you have the courage to come to me from now on. And then they take a walk where Forrest stops her and tells her that, you know, he loves her. He is so grateful that she loves him and waited for him. And then he proposes to her, and Sheena obviously says yes.
Will you please marry me?
Oh, God.
All of the memories and all the
Yes, I do.
So the two head back because, you know, they have to tell his parents about it. And Forrest is not super excited about it because, you know, Molly is a bitch. And they're like, yeah, we had a really great time. It was super fun. And, you know, it just felt like a really good time to propose to her.
It just felt like the right place to kind of propose to Sheena. And she said yes.
So there's this awkward silence as Molly is just shaking her head and like rolling her eyes. And Forrest is like, yeah, so are you guys happy for us? And Molly is such a sarcastic bitch. And she's like, oh yeah, Forrest, I'm so happy for you. And I'm just like, bitch, like you can show your concern and not be an absolute asshole. I'm just saying, like, that's a possibility. That's a choice you can actively make.
I asked you to hold off and wait so she could prove herself. And then you just go walk up and pull this little sneak.
And then she turns into an absolute monster and she screams, if you weren't gonna listen to me, then what the fuck am I doing in this country, Forrest?
If you are not gonna be willing to listen, what the am I doing sitting over here in this country then, Forrest?
I'm genuinely flabbergasted that this woman thinks that her role in coming to this country was to have the final say in Forrest's life and relationship. Like, lady, he brought you for moral support and as a sounding board, but the decision is ultimately his because he is a human adult. Anyway, Forrest stands on business again, and he calls his mother a stubborn ass, and he's like, you just do not want to be happy that we are happy.
You just don't want to accept our happiness.
Don't be shaking your head and agreeing when you weren't there and
agree
in part of the
because this is
process.
what we talk as couples.
And then Sheena's like, I mean, I'm agreeing with what he said. We love each other. This is a decision that we made together. And then Molly, the hypocritical cunt that she is like, don't speak for Forrest.
And this is our
Then
decision.
don't answer for him if you weren't in its head and you weren't there at the time when he
an
decided
adult
to do
and
it.
I would decide
all
for
right?
what we want to do.
Oh, I about lost my shit when she said that. Because, lady, what do you mean? She's not talking for Forrest. She's just saying yes to the things that Forrest said by himself. Also, that is some rich shit coming from a woman who thinks that she has the right to dictate what decisions her son makes.
Hey,
Do
Mom.
you think maybe it would have been nice if you would have included us? Now she's got the whole cat in the bag, doesn't she?
I got so mad that I was like, can somebody just like push her into the pool now? And then Molly just like shakes her head. She's so disappointed. And she tells Forrest that he just made a decision that's going to ruin his life. And I'm sorry, not sorry. If Molly was my mother and this was a situation that I was in, I would cut her off immediately. I would kick her onto a plane and be like, adios, bitch. And I only feel this annoyed because Molly is just, she's an atrociously odious woman, in my opinion. Okay, so let's move on to Lisa and Daniel. Daniel is taking Lisa to go see his tribe's quote-unquote king. It's not really a monarch, it's more like a spiritual leader.
I am going to meet a real king. I'm so nervous I may pee my pants.
And Lisa is like, oh my God, I'm gonna meet a king? Oh my God, how big is his castle? How big is his mansion?
I'm picturing a huge castle. It's gonna be bigger than Disneyland. It's gonna have towers and a moat, marble floors, and this grand entrance.
And then they arrive, and the king just lives in a normal house.
This is nothing like I expected. I am thinking I'm going to this palace, but what the This is not a palace.
And at first, I was a little suspicious of the king. I thought he was like a paid actor because he's wearing this stuffed lion head. And I'm like, that feels so silly.
A lot of couple comes to me because I'm His Royal Majesty. I'm an oracle, a prophet.
Editing Boba here. So I did look into this a little bit, and there were a few articles that I found that refer to Don Sylvester as Igwe or quote-unquote king. So there might be some validity to this claim. However, I advise you all to take it with a ginormous grain of salt because he also claims to be an award-winning music producer and filmmaker, and I have not been able to find the names of any of his films or the accolades that they have apparently received. I have seen people say that this is more of an honorary title. It doesn't actually mean anything. Don Sylvester doesn't have any kind of power, so do with that information what you will. Anyway, they meet with the king. He does this little thing where he's asking the ancestors if this marriage is going to be successful, and apparently the ancestors are 100% down with them.
What if the ancestors don't give us a blessing? Does it erase the uncle's blessing? Does it erase how Daniel feels about me? I have no idea. He's the king.
And then he calls Lisa forward and he's like, are you going to take good care of Daniel? And she's like, yes, my king. And he is like, I don't believe you.
Are you sure you are going to take good care of him?
Yes, my king.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I don't think so.
And like, buddy, first of all, maybe don't be so aggressive. Second, the girlie gives him so much money that she does not have. And it is largely the reason he has a home. So Lisa's very uncomfortable, she's very nervous, and she does a little giggle. And apparently this is a huge offense because the king is like, why are you laughing? Did I tell you to laugh?
You don't think so?
No. Why are you laughing? Do you see me laugh?
No, my king.
Who are you laughing at? You are laughing at me?
And then Daniel is like, oh my God, I can't believe she did that. And so he stands up and he's like, my king, listen, like, don't be offended. She's new to our tradition. She is trying her best. And I super duper want to marry her. And as soon as Daniel comes to her defense, the king is just like, oh, okay, this is fine. You guys can go get married. Here's the blessing. And then he calls Lisa up again and he tells her, you cannot laugh unless the king is laughing or the king instructs you to laugh, okay? And she's like, okay. And he's like, so laugh. And she just looks at him and he's like, I told you to laugh. And Lisa's just like, ha 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 ha. God, it's so fucking awkward.
Oh, yeah, laugh now. Laugh. Yeah, I tell you to laugh now. Okay.
And then the king is like, all right, one last test. We need to make sure that your woman can dance. And then he forces Lisa to dance. And I'm just like, dude, am I on drugs? Is this a fever dream?
Dance anyhow you know how to dance.
You must dance with me.
Anyway, that is what happened on this episode. I did this recap a little differently. I normally script it super heavily, but I kind of wanted to try to riff off of just notes that I took to just like Sometimes I feel like I come off really robotic when I talk, and I want to become more comfortable with being able to freeform my recaps, I guess. So that is why, you know, if you felt like this was a little different, or if I'm missing a lot of details, or I'm not as well spoken as I normally am, that is why. You know, I'm not a quick thinker when I talk, which is why I rely so heavily on scripts. Anyway, I hope you guys still enjoyed it. Even though nothing happened in the episode, I still enjoyed watching it. I think largely because Molly made me so mad. And that is like an area that I live comfortably in, you know, being pissed off at people. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you are not subscribed to this channel yet and you do want to support the channel, be sure to click that subscribe button, give this video a big thumbs up, and please let me know down in the comments below what you thought of this episode. And with that, I will see you in the next one. Bye!